Iran just did the unthinkable. Just hours after the U.S. stealth bombers obliterated 3 of Iran's most protected nuclear sites, Iran fired back 17 missiles aimed directly at the heart of America's military footprint in the Middle East. Al-Udeid Air Force Base in Qatar. Now, this wasn't just a symbolic move. This was a direct strike on U.S. sovereign personnel, on CENTCOM headquarters, on American power itself. And President Trump, he's not mincing words. He's calling this what it is. It's an act of war. And he vowed, quote, "If Iran wants total destruction, we will show them what that looks like," end quote. So this is the first time in over a decade that Iran has directly attacked a U.S. base of this scale. And it happened under President Trump's second term, not Biden, not the Democrats. So the big question now, was this a warning shot or the first battle of something bigger? So in today's video, we're going to break it all down. We're going to break down the secret behind why President Trump struck first, what Iran just did that crossed the final red line, and why Qatar, Israel, and even the Pentagon are bracing for the next 48 hours. So stick with me, guys, because by the end of today's video, you're going to understand exactly why the world just changed and why Trump's next move may rewrite the balance of power forever. By the way, if you appreciate the daily news updates, I appreciate if you take a second and hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. So the world just changed. At exactly 2:42 a.m., Iran launched a coordinated missile attack, a missile assault targeting the United States' largest military base in the Middle East, Al-Udeid Air Force Base in Qatar. This base isn't just some random remote outpost. It is the forward headquarters of CENTCOM, home to 10,000 American troops, advanced surveillance aircraft, special ops coordination centers, drone command terminals, the beating heart of U.S. military presence in the region. Now, according to the U.S. and Qatar officials, 17 ballistic and cruise missiles were launched from inside Iranian territory. The weapons crossed over the Persian Gulf under the cover of night, tripped advanced radar systems, and were intercepted mid-air by a layered wall of U.S. Patriot missile systems, Qatari THAAD batteries, and joint allied defenses. No American blood was spilled. Thankfully, no American blood was spilled. No Air Force was destroyed. And, of course, no aircrafts were destroyed either. But I want to be very clear here, guys. This was an act of war. President Trump is not going to stand for this. In fact, Iran didn't just shoot toward U.S. forces. They deliberately fired at America's most protected stronghold, knowing full well it would trigger a global response. They chose the base where the original orders to strike Iran's nuclear facilities had likely been issued. They chose to hit back and hit big. But here's where it gets even darker. Iranian state media broadcast dramatic music, footage of missiles streaking through the air, and chilling captions across the screen saying, quote, "A mighty and successful response to American aggression," end quote. They called it Operation Herald of Victory. Their message was designed to rally their people. But behind the scenes, intelligence reports confirmed by the New York Times suggest that Iran quietly gave advance notice to Qatari officials, warning them to evacuate or disperse key assets. This wasn't compassion. This was controlled escalation. Iran wanted to send out a message without triggering an all-out U.S. retaliation. They wanted to appear defiant, but avoid a direct body count. If you see what I'm saying here, guys, they wanted the world to see. They wanted the world to see the strike, but not cause any blood from it. If you understand what I'm saying here, trying to keep the video monetized. So their military even claimed that they used the exact number of missiles as the U.S. used bombs during President Trump's airstrike operation over the weekend. 1 for 1, symbolic symmetry, but symbolism doesn't erase intent. And President Trump, he doesn't play games. Now, you got to ask yourself, was this a genuine attempt by Tehran to contain the war, or was it a calculated PR stunt to test President Trump's red line without crossing it completely? Because if they miscalculated, then the next phase may not be measured. It may be obliteration. Now, of course, we need to break down why President Trump ordered the most powerful U.S. airstrike in 2 decades just a couple of days ago, and why Iran's decision to target Al-Udeid was more than retaliation. It was more of a declaration. So how long have you been putting this off? The stress, the confusion, the rising cost. Today is the day that all changes. Leslie Taylor, she made the call. She's now saving $1,000 every year. Barbara B., she didn't hesitate either. She said, chapter is great. Please look into it. You will not regret it. Hey guys, if you've been waiting for a sign, this is it. You don't have to overpay every month for Medicare. You don't have to figure it out alone. I've heard the stories. It is incredibly complicated. Of course, it's the government. No surprise there, right? But Chapter's here to help. And the best news of all is that it's totally free. In fact, the average senior is saving around $1,500 per year thanks to Chapter. Give our friends at Chapter a call. Phone number is down below, or hit them up on their website. Link in the description down below at askchapter.org/Ron. So let's rewind the tape, because to understand why Iran fired those 17 missiles, we need to talk about what happened 2 nights ago. At 12:01 a.m. on June 22nd, under complete radio silence, even 7 U.S. B-2 stealth bombers lifted off from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri. Now, these weren't ordinary sorties. These were some of the most sophisticated nuclear-capable bombers in our arsenal, capable of bypassing radar, punching deep through bunkers, and turning hardened targets into ash. These were escorted by F-22s and F-35s. These bombers, they flew over 7,000 miles. And when they reached Iranian airspace, they dropped hell. Fordo, Natanz, Isfahan, 3 of Iran's most heavily guarded nuclear enrichment facilities. They struck in a very coordinated tri-wave assault. Multiple 30,000-pound bunker buster bombs penetrated deep below the surface. We had Tomahawk missiles fired into U.S. Ohio-class submarine 400 miles away, ripping into the infrastructure. Guys, this was no warning shot. This was a crippling punch to the core of Iran's nuclear ambitions. And President Trump, he announced it no uncertain terms on Truth Social. He said, monumental damage was done. Obliteration is an accurate term. Wow. Pentagon officials, they called it the largest B-2 mission since 9/11. And one high-ranking military source even added, the strike set their nuclear timeline back by years, if not permanently. So how did Iran respond? Well, not by striking Israel, not by sending their proxies to attack tankers or oil fields. No. They went for the source. The Al-Udeid Air Force Base in Qatar was likely the exact location where the U.S. coordinated the strike. That's where intelligence flowed. That's where drones were tracked. That's where decisions were made. And Iran wanted to send a clear message. We see you. We now know where it came from. And we can hit you back. So let's not forget that this is not the first time that Iran has pulled this playbook. After the U.S. killed IRGC General Qasem Soleimani in 2020, Iran launched a missile strike at U.S. troops in Iraq just 10 days later. But this is different here, because this is the first Iranian strike on Al-Udeid since Trump returned back to the White House. And the stakes, let's just say that they're exponentially higher. So now all eyes are on President Trump. He's already responded with some pretty powerful words, but what will the action look like? Will he unleash the next wave? Will this stay contained? Or are we standing at the edge of a war unlike anything that we've seen in decades? So to understand why Iran just unleashed 17 missiles toward an American military stronghold, you really need to understand what all of this set off and why President Trump's recent decision was unlike anything that we've seen in 20 years. This entire escalation traces back to a moment that it was as deliberate as it was devastating. In the early hours of June 22nd, President Trump, he gave the green light for a multi-pronged precision air campaign that was aimed squarely at the core of Iran's nuclear program. And folks, this wasn't some vague airstrike buried in the news cycle. This was a full spectrum offensive plan months in advance and executed with chilling accuracy. At exactly 12:01 a.m. Eastern, 7 B-2 stealth bombers departed Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri. These are the ghosts of the sky, virtually invisible to radar, capable of flying over 6,000 miles without detection. They were not flying alone, though. They were accompanied by F-22 Raptors, F-35 Lightning Ls, Lightning IIs. They were carving the skies out ahead and behind these B-2s, sweeping for threats, punching through enemy airspace with fifth-generation dominance. Guys, their mission was very clear. Destroy 3 of Iran's most fortified nuclear enrichment sites, each buried deep beneath reinforced concrete, camouflaged under civilian structures, and surrounded by anti-air defenses. Their targets? Fordo, hidden in a mountain near Qom; Natanz, the centerpiece of Iran's uranium enrichment; and Isfahan, where uranium conversion and research operations take place. The Pentagon released a statement hours later calling it the most complex coordinated bomber strike since 9/11. According to the sources, the mission involved 7 B-2 bombers, over 75 precision-guided munitions, 30 Tomahawk missiles launched from a submerged U.S. Ohio-class submarine 400 miles away, and nearly 125 aircraft involved in total, including drones, AWACS, refuelers, and stealth escorts. Now, reports are saying 12 massive bunker busters dropped directly on Fordo. Another 2 30,000-pound penetrators slammed into Natanz, and Isfahan, which sits on top of deep tunnels and storage facilities, was hammered by sea-launched cruise missiles. And then silence. No follow-up, no apology, no press conference delay. President Trump took to Truth Social and wrote only this: Fordo, Natanz, Isfahan, monumental damage. Obliteration is an accurate term. In that one sentence, the world understood the era of strategic patience was over. The gloves were off. So, why did Iran pick Al-Udeid to strike in return? Because that base just outside of Doha, Qatar, is more than a strategic launch pad. It's really the nerve center, the digital brain behind real-time targeting, surveillance, coordination, and communications flow for U.S. operations across the Middle East. When President Trump ordered that strike on Iran, there's no doubt Al-Udeid was part of that pipeline. The bombers may have launched from Missouri. The missiles may have been fired from a sub deep in the Gulf, but the green lights, those came from Qatar. And this is why Iran retaliated exactly where they did. But remember, this is not the first time that they've used this playbook. If we go back to 2020, when President Trump ordered the drone strike that took out Qasem Soleimani, Iran's response was swift. They launched 13 ballistic missiles at U.S. Air Force bases in Iraq, injuring over 100 troops and rattling the entire region. Now, this time, though, it was a little bit different because Iran struck not just any base, but the crown jewel of America's military footprint in the Middle East. And they did it while Trump was in office. Again, not Biden, not Obama, and this time they missed on purpose. According to the New York Times, Iran warned Qatari officials in advance. Their goal wasn't to kill. It was to send a message. We can reach you. We know where your eyes and ears are. We're not finished. But the big question is this: did they go too far or not enough? Right? Because now all eyes are on Trump. And when we come back, of course, I need to break down exactly how he responded behind closed doors, what total destruction really means, and the terrifying options sitting on the table inside of the Situation Room. So clearly the strike was confirmed, the missiles were intercepted, and within the hour, President Donald J. Trump was already in motion. Inside the White House, an emergency national security briefing was convened just before dawn. So President Trump met with the Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, National Security Advisor Kash Patel, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs General Dan Kane, and key CENTCOM commanders patched in from overseas via encrypted communications. One source in the room described Trump as calm but cold, fully aware of what the Iranian strike represented. Another official put it this way: the president said that this was not retaliation, it was provocation. And now they're going to learn what crossing the line really means. Just hours later, Trump made his first public statement since the attack, short, sharp, and impossible to misinterpret. If Iran hits us again, it will be the last thing they ever do. That wasn't blunder. That was a strategic warning, because while the world was focused on missile trails and intercepted explosions, something else was happening behind the curtain. Multiple sources have already confirmed U.S. bases in the region have quietly gone to DEFCON 2, the second highest alert level in the Pentagon's war readiness system. American submarines in the Mediterranean and the Arabian Gulf are repositioning. F-22 squadrons out of Al-Dhafra and another secret location have already been scrambled. We've also got reports that Global Hawk and RQ-170 drones are now swarming the skies above Iran's interior. And inside the Situation Room, President Trump is weighing three brutal options: a targeted air campaign on Iran's oil production capacity, including their Karg Island export hub, Abdan refinery, and key pipeline routes. This would cripple Iran's economy overnight, paralyzing their revenue and freezing diplomatic leverage. Option 2, decapitation strike. This is a precision assault on IRGC Missile Command, removing the strategic brain behind Iran's ballistic and drone programs. Think satellite-tracked strikes, bunker busters on Tehran's outskirts, and the kind of hits that turn command into chaos. Now, there's also option 3, which is, it's a region-wide escalation involving U.S., Israeli, and Gulf coalition forces designed to eliminate Iran's capacity to wage war altogether. Now, this would include the destruction of nuclear sites, military infrastructure, IRGC proxy networks in Syria, Iran, Lebanon, and Yemen. But the cost? Tens of thousands of lives, global oil shock, and of course, the potential for World War III. President Trump knows the weight of this very moment. He made it clear: symbolic responses won't be tolerated. And unlike Biden, who responded to Iranian provocations with drone warnings and delayed sanctions, Trump isn't interested in optics. In his words, this isn't a movie. This isn't politics. If they come at us again, they won't be a Tehran left to launch from. Wow. But it's not just the White House that's on edge right now. The entire world is reacting. Airspace closures, troop movements, and mass evacuations already underway. So yeah, while missiles were still cooling in midair, Trump's war room was still hot. The entire world started to shift. First came the airspace shutdowns, Qatar full closure, Bahrain closed within minutes, United Arab Emirates and Kuwait both followed. Even Jordan and Saudi Arabia have restricted military air corridors as of this morning. Commercial flights were being rerouted in droves. Global airlines, including British Airways, Lufthansa, Emirates, and Qatar Airways, have either canceled routes or issued immediate regional diversions. The message is clear: the Gulf is no longer stable airspace. Meanwhile, U.S. embassies across the region have activated emergency protocols. American citizens in Qatar, Iraq, UAE, and parts of Israel have been ordered to shelter in place or prepare for rapid departure. The British Foreign Office issued a very similar warning, and China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs has instructed Chinese nationals to avoid travel to any area within military range of Iran. But the tension isn't just confined to the Middle East. Tensions in Israel and, of course, the proxy threat are there. In Israel, defense forces are now on full alert for retaliatory proxy attacks, particularly from Hezbollah in Lebanon, Iranian-backed militias in Syria, and Houthi rebels in Yemen who've already launched drone attacks on shipping lanes. IDF strikes have already resumed in southern Lebanon in anticipation of Hezbollah mobilization. Israeli Prime Minister has vowed to eliminate any state or militia that joins Iran in this war. And while bombs haven't landed on American cities, the threat may already be inside of our borders. Over the last 48 hours, Customs and Border Protection CBP and Department of Homeland Security have issued classified warnings about Iranian sleeper cells that may now be activated inside the United States. Now, according to a leaked memo obtained by News Nation and confirmed by Fox, the CBP director stated the threat of Iranian-linked sleeper cells attacks on American soil is the highest we've ever recorded. That's not paranoia. That's policy. Over the last 4 years, thousands of undocumented foreign nationals, including Iranian males of military age, have entered the U.S. via the southern border. Many have released or were released under previous border policies. Many vanished. Many were never vetted to begin with. And so now, with Iran officially retaliating, U.S. intelligence agencies fear that sympathizers may attempt domestic attacks either independently or under foreign direction. But think about that. While we're focused overseas, the next attack may happen in our own backyard. The Department of Homeland Security is urging maximum vigilance in all major metropolitan areas. Cities like New York, Los Angeles, Houston, and Chicago are now under elevated threat posture. Law enforcement has been quietly instructed to watch for suspicious activity around military installations, federal buildings, and energy infrastructure. So, question now is Iran done? Was this strike in Qatar their way of saying, we're even? Or is that just the opening act in a campaign of chaos? So, smoke is still in the air. World leaders are scrambling. U.S. forces are locked, loaded, and positioned around Iran like wolves circling the perimeter. But the question now is this. This is the one that everybody's asking behind closed doors, from the Pentagon to NATO war rooms. It's this. Is Iran done, or are they just getting started? There's a theory that's circulating through diplomatic circles and military analysts alike that Iran's missile attack was measured on purpose, that they gave Qatar a heads up to avoid killing Americans, that by matching missile for bomb, they're trying to save face without starting a war that they know that they cannot win. If this is true, then we may be seeing the start of de-escalation through symbolism. Theatrical retaliation, minimal damage, public victory chants for domestic consumption, and nothing more than that. But if you believe that, then you're placing faith in the same regime that funds Hezbollah, arms the Houthis, and once openly vowed to wipe Israel off the map. Because here's the darker scenario. What if this wasn't their only move? What if this was just the first retaliatory strike, with more to follow through their vast web of proxies? Remember, Iran has embedded militias in Iraq and Syria. Hezbollah has 150,000 missiles aimed at Israel. And the IRGC still has the capacity to launch drones, cyber attacks, and sleeper cell operations anywhere in the world. So what if the next missile doesn't get intercepted? What if the next wave isn't launched from Iran, but maybe from a ship in the Red Sea or a basement in a U.S. suburb? We're entering uncharted territory, and what happens next, it could shift the course of history. President Trump has drawn a hard red line. He made it very clear. Any further aggression from Iran will be met with force far greater than what was witnessed this week. So now America waits, because the next move belongs to Iran. The moment they slip even slightly, Trump's response may not be surgical. It may be seismic. And if that happens, here's what to expect. Oil markets will explode. Global alliances will be tested. U.S. forces across the Gulf will shift into wartime operations, and the Iranian regime may face its final chapter. So we're at a crossroads right now. The path, well, there's a couple of paths. One path leads to containment and diplomacy. The other to a multi-theater conflict, stretching from Tel Aviv to Tehran, from Baghdad to Beirut, and possibly even to the U.S. homeland. So it's clear that this isn't just another news story. This is a moment in time. This is a flashpoint, a decision fork on the world stage. Iran crossed the line. The U.S. was bombed. And now President Trump has vowed total destruction if it happens again. The only question left is, will they dare? I want you to drop your thoughts in the comments down below. Should President Trump launch a second strike, or should the U.S. hold its fire and wait? I want to see what you guys say down below. Be sure to like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell notification because the next 48 hours may change everything that we thought we knew about the Middle East and America's future role in it. So I'm going to keep you guys updated with real-time analysis as this unfolds. Be careful out there, guys.